beneficiate these resources. What is $30? The government must become an active business partner. Botswana is taking over its own diamonds. And once the government has money, then they reduce on taxes. You are allowed as government to own state resources, critical state resources. And it's something that I'm willing to mobilize. And mobilize the community is not a crime. Out of the 82 minerals that are key in Zimbabwe, 460 in total, 82 are critical in the world. That of those 82, if we can identify 20 key ones, uranium, chrome, platinum, gold, diamonds, and we create our own government as a business unit to dig these things and sell them. Cut off the Chinamen and middlemen who are giving you 5-10%.
Yeah.
Why have half a loaf is better than nothing when you can have the whole loaf? Are you happy to be waiting for more miracle poor change over your own resources? I say no. We did not fight for these Chinese to come and be taking lithium in Bikita. We need to own our resources. We trade with it on the international market at the true value. We make profit for ourselves. Look at UEA. For you simply to be born as a Dubai, you're a millionaire. Why? Because the oil is in the National State Reserve and every citizen has a right to having shares into that. The Mutapa Trust, which they've built so far, must now take all the key resources of the country in terms of minerals, create a business model, put the money into the Mutapa Trust. Every citizen in Zimbabwe must get money from that trust.
Should benefit
without even going to work, man. Other countries are doing it. What's wrong with us? What's wrong with mune nhamo yeshuku yoburombo mapuwa zvinhu zvakawanda nemari nezvichekwa zvakawanda but you still claim poverty because your leadership sense don't try to massage a colonial system. It does not work. Interrupt, destabilize the colonial political economic system. It was not built with the benefit of an African. It was built to draw resources and protect a colonial system outside. We need to remodel that model.
Tishian.
Why are we as Zimbabweans not benefiting from the diamonds, the platinum, the uranium that we have in the country, the chrome and the lithiums and the golds? Why are we not beneficiating? Because the Chinese people are paying 14% tax. Where is the 80% going? Look at look at what Traore has done in 3 years. He went into the government, there was no pen in the Reserve Bank. Grabbed the gold mines. Look at the development he has done in less than 3 years.
In that
from
country.
Infrastructure to production to agriculture, even aeroplane manufacturing and car, electronics, what. The whole economy is running. We're a leader who is purposeful, who is clear on vision, who can see what they want to do, implement it. We would have conversations later. If it is what they wanted us to have, if democracy was the best way of governance, then why did we fight for it? Democracy. Democracy. So there's something very fishy there. If you are listening to what I'm saying, you cannot say this is the best way of governance, yet you don't give it for free. Those who must have it must fight for it. It means that democracy is actually a convenient way of managing their wealth. Into neo-colonialism.
Oh, now I see. Okay.
It was not a gift.
Recent aid cuts, have been criticized for potentially reducing U.S. influence and creating opportunities for adversaries like Russia and China, like you're saying, to expand their international influence. How might this shift in global dynamics affect Africa's geopolitical landscape? And also, what strategies should African nations, adopt in response?
The whole idea of watering down of American influence was long overdue. And the narrative that Russia and China are counter influences is not right. Because every country is free to interact with another country as long as we use the word sovereignty. But America has been enjoying the benefit of becoming the top dog on the eating space. And of course, with the propaganda of socialism and capitalism that has been peddled over the past few years,
Yeah.
from the times of Nixon and Reagan coming this way, that American capitalism
Yeah.
was deemed as a better way of governance than Russian socialism. Cuba, for example, suffered up to date
Yeah.
on sanctions. And of course, the whole world Cold War and World War I and World War II was a war between capitalism and socialism.
Yeah.
So America, having been a partner of Britain under colonialism, we were prone to capitalism.
Yeah.
And capitalism was pro-American. And we were all being taught to be anti-socialism.
Yeah.
But look at it this way. Our independence did not come from capitalism. Our independence came with the support of the socialists.
Yeah. Which is China, Russia.
China and Russia.
Yeah.
Now that China and Russia liberated us, why is America angry when we are working with those that helped us to be freed from yourselves? Because when we were with you, we were slaves.
Yeah.
Now that we are free, you want us to continue as being slaves, but we understand because the system that you put in your financial interests are still with us.
Yeah.
And to protect them, you want to make sure that socialism does not come closer to the cake. So it's all propaganda.
Yeah.
We are being told, even as a free state, who must be your friend. You can't be a friend of this country. Even if I don't give you any benefit.
Yeah.
I mean, I laughed the other day. I remember myself actually started an organization very few years from now.
Yeah.
I'll do it before I die. I want to start a movement. I want us to close the American embassy.
You want to close American embassy?
What are they doing here?
But every country has an
What are you doing
embassy
here?
here.
No, we'll call you when we want you. Yeah. We don't call you here to come supervise us from here. You put us on sanctions and you have the audacity of having an embassy in a country which you don't. Are you okay? You don't like me, but you want to keep your house in my house. No, you can go home. We'll call you.
We'll call you.
Yeah, we'll call you. But again, I'm saying when you're speaking about international relations,
Yeah.
there must be mutual.
I get.
There must be mutual respect between countries.
But how can African countries navigate these relationships to ensure mutual benefit without really falling into the new forms of dependency?
Mutual benefit will come out of mutual respect of each other. And as long as African countries are divided as they are, where 54 different pieces of legislations and international relations from South Africa to Morocco to Algeria, where countries are all fragmented. The African policy, when America looks at us, they don't look at us as a composite. That's the problem. They look at us as pieces of dust on a big map. So their policy is not holistic. So the American policy of Djibouti, vis-a-vis their policy with a military station in Djibouti. So their policy in terms of protecting their interest in Djibouti is a strategic place which manages North Africa. The way they would look at Zimbabwe could be totally different. Could be that if Zimbabwe becomes independent, it might destabilize the West. So their policy is not consistent between country to country. Their policy towards South Africa, vis-a-vis Zambia, depending on what their interests are. But had we been a composite country as Africa, then maybe the way the West, the East, and the North would have been interacting with us could also be holistic. Because we'd be talking about the euro dollar, for example. You're dealing with the whole block of economies from Germany, Italy, Greece. We're talking about American dollar. You're talking about the whole composite. You're talking about the yen, the rupee. But talk about Africa. 54 little pieces of paper that are flying everywhere. So even to make an economic policy with 54 variations of policy of economic, it's complicated. So in our division, we've become very weak. And I think in our unity of our currency as one Africa, we'll begin to have one stock exchange through which we can begin much more meaningful economic conversations. Which, by the way, why am I talking money? Because money is louder than politics.
Very true.
So we could be talking about how our relations and etc. It has nothing to do with relations. It's how much money do you have? Ultimately, our economic muscle gives us the political voice. Right now, we have very big political voice, which is worth nothing. Only when we begin to talk about our financial stability, where like China, you can close your exports to America for 1 week and America will catch a cold. Now that power When you stop sending a ship out and Trump must come in the morning and you have a press conference, you can make a whole president get off his chair to come and go testing 1, 2 air.
Yeah.
We have a problem with China. That's power. That's power. When will Trump get on the microphone to talk about Africa?
Yeah.
Except for cutting off aid. You're a liability. You're not an asset. You're a nuisance on his ledger.
Yeah.
On his budget right now. You're a nuisance. When he looks at you, he is seeing money that is leaking into things that are not profitable for his own. And he's right. You are not a priority. You are not a priority in American politics. You are a liability. And what do you do in the crisis in business? We cut off liabilities and increase on assets. Assets is war. That's why we're going to Israel to fight. Because we must sell more weapons there. But Africa is wasting money on the US aid and AIDS.
There's no war.
The asset is militarization.
Africa still largely exports raw materials, Bishop Maponga, and imports finished, goods. Do you believe Trump's trade war, exposes the failure of our economic model? And this is a chance for Africa to finally industrialize on its own terms.
What was very exciting for me was all this group of our young ladies and men and gentlemen who have been showing off their Gucci's and showing off their Louis Vuittons and the horses on the wrong side, Polo, all these branding things. And China pulls a quick one on us a few months ago when they finally showed us the true value. Could be made in China, but labeled in America. So those whole Louis Vuitton bags, some of them actually selling for $5. $10 in China, and they're selling for 68,000. 38,000 American dollars, and then you walk around and say, I'm carrying a Louis Vuitton, an LV, but the actual price is $5. Some of them 700, the real top class, but some of them literally $5, $10. You didn't see that? You must help your DJ
I
Ollah.
think you should send it to me.
DJ Ollah has been reading all sorts of wrong things. There was a whole TikTok thing over the American brands and etc. And for me, that says, because of the production cost in China, China was outsourced as a manufacturing hub of the world, where then people would take their brands, even iPhones, etc. Then China produces. And then they send them back, and then they market. This window has been happening for the past 60, 70 years, where in the shadows of economics, the real manufacturers has been China. And the distributors and branding guys have been Europe. China did what we call reverse re-engineering. Where they were able to take the best brands in the world and use their own country for reproducing them. Africa has a window of opportunity where through these trade wars that are happening, China has been able to break away from this whole IP story. What is IP? Intellectual property. Where when you produce something, you own it, then you cannot send it. But America and Europe has been the biggest thief of IP for the longest of time. You look at all these brands, they're African brands. They're African logos. They're African, even the American dollar. It's a plagiarism. That how can you say you have an American dollar which has a whole Egyptian pyramid on it? Who pays for the IP of the whole Egyptian pyramid that is sitting on your money? You say it's American, but the branding is a stolen African brand. America has not paid a penny to the IP of that. So we can learn as Africans. We can do what we call reverse re-engineering. Let's buy all these gadgets from outside the country. And I want to challenge all our universities locally. They need to start becoming productive universities. Don't photocopy fools and problems in the society. I hereby apply. I hereby apply. You're increasing problems. Let the universities start producing things. In your laboratory of science, break down this phone to pieces. Dade, we have chrome here. We have lithium here. We have copper here. So what stops Zimbabwe for the first time? The whole professor of engineering and electronics at the University of Zimbabwe. Whole professor. Who can't just produce chimbudzi for us? Chimbudzi phone. As professor. The whole professor of engineering by the University of Zimbabwe. Who can produce a Land Rover? Chimota. Chomotiko driver. Zimbabwe. I mean, the list goes on and on. Kuva kuma radio, kuma technology, kuinda ku Numbi, kuinda ku ngati teiwo sabantu weZimbabwe. Let's start. University of Science and Technology. Brewer, University of Science and Technology. Show me one technology you've produced. Kona wakadra gimbal you butter phone. Yonzi Zimbabwe produced.
Yeah.
Simple science.
Exactly.
Mutura tambo muiza vanhu kutotora makamera at least made in Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
So our universities must not become a photocopying place of fools and liabilities in the society who are looking for employment. You're increasing the problems. I think universities must be closed down if they're not giving us solutions because you are producing more problems into the system. So you have to vary, right?